You need to put in 6 months.
Do a check-in with yourself in 6 months
Yes.
and see how you feel. If he wants out in 6 months, he wants out.
Hello, and welcome back to the Friday Feels episode of the UA podcast. I'm Jordana Abraham.
And I'm Jared Freed. It's so good to be back here with you, Jordana. We love a Friday Feels. We love when you guys comment, share, enjoy these episodes.
We
but
do.
You do it in a physical way. We like when you like it, when you comment, when you do all those things. Touch it. Touchy-feely. Come on, touchy-feely on the podcast.
All over it.
Touch our podcast.
It's Friday the 13th.
Friday the 13th.
How do you feel?
I'm in Des Moines, Iowa, if you're listening right now, as most people want to spend their Friday the 13th. Are you superstitious?
I mean, I do have crystals, so I
You
guess
are a
I
crystal
must be
bitch.
in some way, shape, or form.
Right. I think I like a good juju. I like
Yeah.
a good aura, a good vibe.
Well,
I do think body language is a part of, I am superstitious about body language and attitude.
Yeah. I mean, don't you think, that's just energy. And I do think that's energy I think is real. I fully believe in
I'm with
energy
you.
affecting your outcome. But the 13th thing is interesting because you're in a lot of elevators for work.
Right.
I would say most elevators don't have a 13th floor.
It's weird
Right?
that we've all decided that's
we're
something we're all just going to tiptoe around.
Well,
We're
it's
just-
on one hand, we're all like, oh, this is not like a real societally acceptable thing to
Right.
have these superstitions and to take any of this seriously, and no crystals, no anything like that, no holistic medicine, whatever it is. But on the other hand, no 13th floor.
Right. Well,
Just in case.
It shows that that's a marketing thing. The buildings were no one will rent the 13th floor over the 12th floor.
But we're
Do you know what I mean?
taking it. That's what I'm saying. We're taking it seriously.
It's I believe everything's about money. So
sure, yeah.
The
they
idea
want to be able to sell, but
right. They're like, well,
if you're on the 14th floor, you're really on the 13th.
Right. But if it doesn't say it,
Right.
and I agree with you. It's why is this the weird line that we abide by?
The only thing we're
Yeah.
gonna take seriously.
Right. And we make fun of people for so many things that are way less weird.
Right.
I don't even have an
But
example
also,
off the
I
top
guess,
of mine.
would you want to live on the 13th floor?
No.
So
I don't want to live in the 13th floor. I don't want to be on flight 13 to Florida tonight. I don't want to be on,
it's Friday.
666 Avenue. I don't want
Yeah.
that to be my address.
That's true.
There's all those things
It's
where I'm
kind
I just don't, you know what it is?
I don't have to think about it.
I don't want to think about it, and I don't want someone to say, well, you kind of asked for this. Moving
Right.
into the 13th floor. I think that's more what we're trying to avoid is
Mm-hmm.
oh, you dummy. No one lives on the 13th floor. That's why it went into a blaze of flames.
Right. That's why your life is in ruins.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that we're all just trying to avoid someone saying, I told you so.
Right. Well, then they should stop building floors 13 levels up, because when you're on floor 14, that's the floor you're on.
Well, to make this about dating and relationships, it's why people hide their relationships. It's why people don't talk about going back to an ex.
Superstitious?
They're superstitious and I told you so.
Mm-hmm.
You went back to Rob. I told you. That's not the greatest way to talk to someone who's going through a hard time
Right.
in the relationship that they can't get out of. I think that's why
Mm-hmm.
people become secretive about their addictions, and a lot of times their addiction is love.
Yeah.
So
Totally. I mean, someone who's in a
eat at night.
situationship, you're
That's an addiction.
it's an addiction to someone.
Right. So it's why do people hide those things?
Right.
What'd you do last night? Nothing. And they're just out sucking Rob's dick.
I saw a thing on a funny tweet or something like that. It was situationships are just when someone with low self-esteem meets someone with commitment issues.
It's a
I'm
bad,
yeah.
that's very true.
It's basically
Right.
what you have there.
And some could say the commitment issues person has low self-esteem as well.
That's true.
I think there's nothing more confident than going into a relationship.
How so?
Just the idea that you're love will conquer all, we'll be fine. This is the person I'll be with forever.
Right.
There's a lot of optimism. There's a lot of delusion that goes into signing up for the next step. And
Right.
whatever it is, this person and I are so, in it, we'll handle it. Because then you hear stories of when you hear people go through real life things as they get in their relationship, and it's like, wow, like, how do you don't know what, so everyone, I don't want to call it, not trauma, but like things happen and then people react to them in the way they react to them, and you can't get ahead of that.
Right. Yeah, you
can't
don't
know how that affects the duo when one person gets affected differently than the other. We were talking about last episode about the red flag deal breaker. Someone got sick and the wife is like, ugh, they got sick. They're such a baby when they're sick.
Yeah.
Gross. Imagine if that was like a real serious sickness that guy got. And then he's now like, kind of like, a long-term recovery. And now the thing that makes her so not into him
is there all the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
With no end in sight.
Yeah.
You go, wow, that's an effect on the marriage. How do we get through this?
Couples therapy.
Man, I really made this sad right away.
Yeah,
huh?
this got
it was
really
fun.
Upbeat. Yeah, 13th floor. Happy Friday the 13th.
I hope you guys take the stairs.
How are you feeling this Friday?
I feel okay. I've been, the special taping's coming up. By this time, it already happened. If you've came to that show, I want to thank you for being part of it. Thank you, Betches, for being a production partner.
Of course, we're proud to put it on.
So hopefully, I'm assuming it all went great. And now I'm in this like period of time where it's like I do have a little bit of like maybe Jared should shut the fuck up for a minute. Do you ever have that? Break? I do think like I'm going to Des Moines. I'm in Des Moines, then I'm in Batavia. I'm hoping those shows are like fun and loose.
Yeah.
Because I think sometimes my mental state is related to the set I'm doing on stage. Like the set I'm doing, if it's super tight, then I feel a little tight.
Right.
Like I'm not having fun. It's too business.
Yeah.
When the set on stage is like loose and fun and loosey-goosey and I'm being ridiculous and stupid, I feel good and loose and not business.
Right.
So I'm hoping to have like a period of time from now until I guess my 40th birthday.
2 months.
It's coming up.
From this day this airs ish.
Is that ish?
Two and a bit.
Yeah, 2 and a bit.
So you're thinking about taking a break?
I can never take a break. I'm kind of stuck.
That's the hardest thing to do is to take a break. But I do feel, and this is a note to myself, this is me speaking to myself as well. I do feel like there's magic that happens when you take a break. It's the hardest thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
But like you get like clarity. You get like
the quiet. It is. I talk about how like this podcast is a great way to like put your brain on the shelf. Recently, I've been taking walks without listening to a podcast, which has actually been hard for me because then I have to like deal with my own thoughts and stuff.
Right.
And it's been helpful to just like think things out and be a little bit clear-minded. And I think that's what you're saying with like a break.
Yeah.
Is like sit in the quiet. It's a little uncomfortable.
It is uncomfortable because your brain always wants you to be like doing something or solving something or or fixing whatever seeming problem you seem to have. And that's why it's so hard to be like, why would I not be working towards this thing that I want?
Right.
But
it's counterintuitive.
Right. It feels counterintuitive, but it does seem like, I guess like maybe doing that forces you to be less outcome driven and like enjoy where you're currently at.
Right. Yeah, I was talking to someone about this last night. I was like really I feel really anxious about a lot of different things.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, and they're like, your life is pretty good. And I'm like, yeah, it is pretty good. There's nothing bad.
Right. And when you're constantly working towards like the next thing, you don't really even
stop and smell the roses.
Right. I mean, we talk about this a lot. Like, what if this is as good as it ever gets?
That's the problem I have. I never count on that.
Right.
I'm always like worried about like going downhill.
Yeah, I think most people do.
Will it be great? It's like, how do I keep the water at this level?
But like by constantly trying to keep it at that level, you don't even enjoy the level.
Right. Yeah. And I think a break, I mean, we're taping this ahead. We're going to have like a little bit of a break, right?
Yeah.
Right? Do we have a break? Do I get a break, Betches?
Yeah, next week. I'm not going to see you for a couple weeks.
It's going to be a couple weeks. I think this podcast, it'll be better because of that.
Mm-hmm.
Not that this episode won't be great. We're going to give a 10 here.
Yes, we always give it our all.
Always our all, but I think we come back and we have like stories and we're ready to talk about our lives.
It's time to think.
Time to think, yeah, to sit in it and experience. You know, I think that's a big part of it too. Like, you got to leave the house. You got to do stuff.
Yes. And how do you breathe through that feel, as Dr. Naomi would say, how do you breathe through that feeling of I need to do something?
Right. Well, I just think, I guess what I mean by not do something, like, just got to like I have to go to Florida and I have to talk with my parents.
You don't really have to do that, though.
I think, but I just like, I want to just go and like live, you know, like I'm going to golf.
What do you have to talk to them about?
Nothing. My weight, my eating, my drinking.
I thought you were like, can I have a serious conversation?
No, not like a talk. Like, just like, I just got to live.
But you must love it because you go a lot.
I do like it. I don't know. Maybe I wouldn't like it if someone...
Feels comfortable.
It does feel comfortable.
But do you like it?
I do. It's like being on the road to me. Like being on the road, like, is a great excuse to not deal with like real problems.
Okay.
Like I like being on the road and I like being at my parents' house because I can tape a podcast, I can play golf, I go to the beach, and then like if someone's like, "Hey Jared, have you sent in your tax information?" I'm like, "When I get home."
Right.
You know, stuff like that.
So
also relationships. I think I'm avoiding relationships. If I'm like, to be honest,
Right.
like travel and parents. And I listen, I'm not alone. I've dated the women who are like, can't hang out. I got to go hang with my niece and nephew.
Right.
Niece and nephew. The aunt woman is such a thing here.
Totally.
The woman who's aunt first, her life second. And it's almost, you can like tell like they're doing what I do with shows and with going to my parents.
They're going somewhere that feels comfy, right?
They're going somewhere that isn't
they feel loved.
Them, isn't them being alone.
But it's not their optimal state. It's sort of like the B-level state. Like it's the next best thing over actually figuring out their shit.
Absolutely. It is a doorstep to commitment without having to commit.
So what would it look like for you to be like, not doing that, not going to your parents, not doing
I guess it would look like
What are you avoiding?
I don't know. I'm probably avoiding the next step of life, which seems great. I see my friends in relationships. I see you and Mike, and I'm like, that seems great. That seems comfy.
We have a good time.
That seems my speed. I like planning a trip.
Yeah.
I like going to a restaurant, discussing a restaurant.
I think you'd love a relationship.
We talk about this. I think I'd be at my best in a relationship.
And you said you wanted one.
I did, and I get really annoyed. Some people, I've been sending you the DMs. Have you kept the DMs I've kept?
Have I kept them? I mean,
You don't put them in a locket?
a special folder?
We wanted to read them on the air.
Oh, yeah.
Good and bad DM. You want to bring them
up?
up?
We were going to play this game. I love this game. Let's do it. Okay, so the game is called Is That My Wife? And in the game,
yes,
we read the DMs of people that have slid into Jared's DM,
yes.
and we'll talk about good DMs and bad DMs, or my DMs, because I get a lot of DMs. I get a lot of DMs for people trying to have me set Jared up. And there's a right way and a wrong way to do those too.
Right, and I think that's a good strategy at heart. And I hate that what this becomes is Jared talking about how many women are trying to like get with him. And I don't like that assertion. I think that's wrong. I do think this is teaching. I do think this is like relatable because everyone's got DMs and everyone's reading them. And if you're attracted to someone, no one listens to this. No one's listening to me right now. Everyone is turned off because every time I explain this, it never gets listened to, or I just get annoyed. Someone's like,
if you're not listening, that's reason enough that you're not going to be
That's
selected.
why, but you, Mr. or Ms. Listener,
I get annoyed on your behalf.
Right, because we're showing people how to DM someone they follow. You're following someone that you're like keeping an eye on.
Yeah, this is for you guys.
You write to them, not me. I'm just saying. So I've sent you a few of the DMs I've gotten, and we're calling this, Is This My Wife?
Is that my wife?
Is that my wife? Yeah.
And Jared's going to say, I'm going to read the DM, and Jared's going to say if that's his wife.
So the most annoying DM I get, and it's not in this group, is, I know dating's your shtick, but maybe you could go on a date with me and be like the idea that I can't do comedy unless it's talking about dating.
Right.
Go fuck yourself.
All right,
That is bullshit.
Let's go through them, right?
Okay, is that my wife?
Is that my wife? Oh my God. Hey, Jared, I'm currently listening to the new You Up. This is me shooting my shot, LOL. But really, if you're ever interested in going on a date in Nova Scotia, It's no NYC, so it's kind of boring, but I just built my own house by hand. I'm your perfect match. I'm 32, cute, funny, the perfect match, except for the fact that I'm Canadian and I lost my uterus in a freak accident. I'm sorry for laughing. So I can't even give you kids. Shit, you're right. This is never going to work. Anyway, I love the pod. Hope you have a great November 1st, and I hope you find your person if that's what you want.
What is that?
Stream of consciousness.
That is not my wife.
That's not your wife?
No.
No?
But I would say, like, I'm not sure. This is the thing. First of all, it's a bad DM slide because they've done everything but one thing. So they're half sliding my DMs, half of it's a joke, half of it's to let me know they love the podcast.
Right.
It's like either give a compliment or shoot your shot. Don't do both is my point.
Right.
Like don't do half shit.
You don't want a compliment?
Don't say I live in Nova, because what they're doing is they're like, I think what a lot of women, what I've noticed from their DM slides is they half shoot. That's a half shot.
Okay.
Because she's being jokey about, and I think the uterus thing, I think they're probably, you're laughing, but I think they were trying to fuck with me.
Right, yeah.
Which I don't know how it works with a uterus.
Again, you're not really on that level to be fucked with just yet.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't want to be fucked with. And also, like, at first they're shooting their shot, then they take it back by, I hope you find everything you want. Oh, it won't work out. And it's like, I do believe, cocky or not, that I could write them back and be like, this was so funny. And oh my God, you live in Nova Scotia. They're looking for me to like take the bait.
Yes.
I would say they've done a bad job at both complimenting and DM sliding.
Agreed. That's not your wife.
So let's do one more. Is that my wife?
Okay. That one was not your wife.
No.
I have one that's closer to being your wife.
Okay. And then we'll go to the email. We're going to do an SOS.
This one's to me.
Okay, this got sent to you.
To me. Again. This isn't an invitation. Don't send me your Jared setup things. I don't.
But this is a good example of you're messaging someone's friend to get set up.
Sure.
This is how you sound.
Yes. Hi, Jordan, a longtime listener. I have told many friends about the pod. For today, LOL, my question is this. For Jared, his lack of interest in dating a teacher, does that extend to assisted principals as well? Thanks for all you both do. Love listening each week. Is that your wife?
It might be my wife.
That's a maybe.
That's a maybe. That's not a bad DM slide to you.
It's not a bad one. However, profile is private.
Can't see it.
General profile picture looks pretty, but to me, that's not enough.
Who's to know?
And better,
right.
though.
At this point, we know she listens to the podcast and
Yes.
she's an assistant principal. We know nothing else.
Yes.
So,
and
as far as like,
that's all you need to know if your profile's open.
Right. Because then we can all go see a real person.
Or send 3 pictures if you don't want to have an open profile.
I would even say that's not enough.
Not enough.
Because I think when you're going to the friend and you're like, hey, your reputation's on the line. You're setting me up with a rando from the internet.
Who knows just as much about her as you do.
Right. And I know that we have this relationship via podcast that feels more personal than it is. Podcasts are the most intimate art form. We are inside people's bodies right now. That my voice is in your head. That's right. Feel me. Feel Jordana noodling around in your ear.
They're making me feel weird.
So I'm just saying, so I understand why people like message and go, hey, what's up? It's me. And it's like, well, I don't know who the fuck me is. You know, like she kind of did a version of it's me.
Yeah.
It's me. I'm not threatening. Yeah, so aren't I. So isn't any man that walks up to you. But you go, yeah, they are threatening.
Right.
Like I this idea that a woman can't creep a guy out is like fraudulent.
I would say like you're already at like a weird position when you're when as a woman you're DMing a man who again would probably sleep with you, would probably not date you.
Right.
So I think you have to do it the correct way. And okay, this isn't an invitation for more DMs,
but if you've received DMs, send them in. We can play it.
We'll play it. We'll play it with. If you've received DMs, if you've sent DMs to someone, give us a good example of shooting your shot. We'll tell you if you're someone's wife.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is that my wife? Let's read the email. You ready?
I'm ready.
Big fan of the pod. All you do, obviously, male listener here looking for a little advice, perspective, and maybe just a laugh.
I did
love
say
this.
I wanted more male listeners. I was itching for more male listeners.
26-year-old male. I love this. And let me just say, I've met a few of the men at shows. All of them great. Like I've met like some great guys. Reasonable, fun. They're like okay with like
being roasted a little bit.
Yeah, roasted. Also hearing out the other side. Like I talk some shit about Tulsa. Horrific place. I would never go back. But the men there were really nice.
Women, not so much.
No. It was great. Okay. I enjoyed Tulsa. Great food. Okay. I, 26-year-old male, have been seeing a 27-year-old girl for about 2 months now. We have been on a lot of really good dates, ranging from nights in to more eventful nights out. As we get more serious and start meeting one another's friends, we inch closer to the question of cuff it or not to cuff, which of course is where the problem lies. I find myself stuck in a conflicted and admittedly shitty headspace. On one hand, if my claims are true, and I do in fact want to be in a relationship, she checks all the boxes. Funny enough. Yeah, they're funny enough. Smart enough. Dude, you got to take this enough out of your
This is good thing he's not writing this to her.
No, thank God. And good thing he's 26. Room to grow.
Yeah.
Funny enough, smart enough.
I get what he's saying, though. Not the funniest person he's ever met, not the smartest person he ever met, not the prettiest person he's ever met, but probably like a 7 on all these things.
Well, I to even change it from there, he's saying funny. I think he's saying funny enough, like they've hit the level of funny I need.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Funny enough, smart enough, pretty enough. It's just that doesn't sound great. Yet I cannot let go of the idea that in some way I'm settling and there could be someone better out there for me. All to say, I am left with the question of why am I so reluctant to get into that next step? I mean, is this guy 26-year-old me?
Maybe.
Is dating someone that is just good enough simply good enough? Should you be obsessed or head over heels? Have the dating apps and social media skewed my perspective, giving me the illusion of choice? Part of me is fearful that if I let her go, I will wake up in a few months or years from now kicking myself for doing so. It is tough out there in the dating world. Really appreciate your guidance here. Look forward to seeing Jared if he comes back to Toronto. Sincerely, whatever the male version of a betch is. A bra.
Bra. Hey, bra.
What do you think?
I think he should go for it.
Be with her.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I do. I think you're 26.
Mm-hmm.
You could have a girlfriend
Mm-hmm.
that you don't marry.
Mm-hmm.
He enjoys spending time with her. He likes the way that's the annoying thing about this like settling thing. Like, what is settling? Settling is like,
you better make sure she never listens to this podcast.
Yeah, definitely make sure she never listens to this podcast. But what is settling? Settling is like you don't like a bunch of things about someone, but you desperately want to be with someone, so you date them anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Settling to me isn't like, is there a chance that there's someone out there that would be a really great match for me?
Right. It's settling versus investing.
Yeah.
Like what you just said about settling, totally true, totally agree.
Mm-hmm.
This, to me, when he says she's funny, she's smart, she's funny enough, smart enough, pretty enough,
yeah,
is it worth your investment? You just said she's a good investment.
Right.
That's not really a romantic way to look at it, but it is way more romantic than, I guess I'll settle with this bitch.
Right.
You know,
that term feels like horrible, right? The term
right.
settling, right? But is it like, but I think that many men have this fear of that, which leads them to kind of this idea that like no one is ever, there's always someone out there that's better. And I think dating apps have done that to men,
mm-hmm.
where it's like the next hotter, smarter, prettier, funnier person is one swipe away. And like, sure, but like that's true of everything. Right?
Well, I think like to get into it from the male side of it,
mm-hmm.
like, you know, women, you know, a lot of times will blame Disney movies, the princess and prince thing. If I'm to look at all the male movies, it is like a guy who when men fall in love in movies, it is like he changes his whole life for this person. Like it's like the dream girl with the aura around her and this moment
it doesn't
that
exist.
It
Who's not a real person.
Right. And I'm saying like this has led people. I think it's okay to say that these movies have led us astray.
Mm-hmm.
You know, every coming of age movie is like nerdy guy who like
it's Pookie and Jet.
Pookie and Jet found the one. Oh my God, she's the girl in high school that he never talked to, and then finally he talks to, and then look at they connect.
He caught the big fish, whatever it is,
and they connect in this weird, interesting way. The Zooey Deschanel, like, oh, we like the same movies,
right.
It's this like connection that you're like, this could only happen with you and I. That's like the male version,
right?
And he's kind of asking about that. He's like, everything's good enough, but I didn't get that like. Boom, we're together. And like, I agree with you. I think you should, let's be in a relationship, see how that feels, like what it feels like to be in a relationship. Right. You might like yourself better. You might like you and her better. That might be something that occurs. And this is me speaking to me.
The person could make you better.
Make you better, but
maybe
also
you kind of suck.
Maybe you're just funny enough.
Yeah.
But this connection.
Well, that's true. I mean, like, I think maybe men don't think about that. Like, maybe you're just funny enough. Maybe you're just hot enough.
Well,
what are you looking for?
It's good that he doesn't think of that. What do you bring to the table?
Projecting? What?
Yeah. Well, but I'm saying, like, I think that's the pleasure of being a man. Mm-hmm. You don't think that way. Oh, I better get myself off the market. No one will be with old me. Like,
right.
That's like women are old at 22. Think of themselves old at 22.
What's the age of the woman most swiped on a dating app? It's fucking 18.
Is it really?
Yeah.
That's fucking crazy.
That's you think the most...
I guess, right. I don't know.
Because they're everyone's type.
Right, that's gross. I don't know. I think, I think this is a speech I'm kind of giving to myself too. Like maybe you get in a relationship and you realize the connection that is this magical thing only happens if you get into a relationship.
Another possibility. Yeah.
But maybe you got to like see what that's like and wear it for a second. And how would you suggest? And I agree with your suggestion of like, let's see what this is.
Yeah.
Fine.
You can always leave, I think, is the other part of it.
How would you suggest imparting that to someone that you want to be with, but you want to like not? You don't want expectations to be.
We're going to get married?
Yeah.
Don't say, I want to marry you. Don't say.
I understand that, but I'm saying like, how would you present this to her? Like, hey, like, would you make it more subtle? Would you, this doesn't have to be him getting on a knee being like, will you be my girlfriend? Mm-hmm. It could more likely be like, hey, I've deleted the apps and I'm giving this a shot.
Yeah.
I just want to let you know that I'm committing to what we're doing here.
Yeah,
like,
I think that's all.
It doesn't have to be, will you be my girlfriend?
I think that's all you need to say. And I think, again, like a good relationship is not just about stats, right? Pretty enough, smart enough, whatever. It's about like a connection. And the only way you find out if you can really connect to someone is by putting time and energy into it.
How much time should he give this? Like, let's say
they've been dating 2 months.
2 months. And he says, hey, I'm just letting you know, I've really like enjoyed getting to know you, but I'm going to be committed to figuring out what this is and I want to be with you.
6 months.
6
that
months.
Line, you need to put in 6 months.
Do a check-in with yourself in 6 months and see how you feel.
Yes.
Maybe that's it.
Yeah. 6 months. You're not like wasting years of her life.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I think like there's something like what is he losing by putting 6 months into really seeing where this could go?
Right. And he might just see that like 26 and scheduling wise, this isn't what he's like, this isn't first on his list.
Sure.
You get 6 months into something and you
say
go.
That. Don't say, could there be someone hotter, funnier?
No, but I don't think you can realize that until you're in it.
Right.
I think like you get in it 6 months from now, the reasons for why you're not really in change. It's not that they're not pretty enough, good enough, smart enough. It's, hey, I don't like how I feel being in a relationship where like I've been in that where I'm like, I'm 6 months in with someone and I'm like, I feel like I'm letting someone down.
Right.
Like, obviously this isn't my first priority.
Do they tell you that you're letting them down?
No, but I feel like I am.
Right. Well, maybe that's in your own head.
Sure.
Maybe what you're letting someone down is
if he wants out in 6 months, he wants out. No.
Yeah, but I'm saying maybe you're like letting someone down is someone else's like, this is just like the compromise of a relationship.
Well, I guess in my mind, that my response to that would be, I don't like how I feel in this relationship.
Okay, well that's the real thing that you want to. Don't make it about, because like when I'm letting someone down makes it like almost like if I could just have a lower standard, things would be fine. Like what you said is you yourself taking ownership for like you're not feeling it, and which is a harder thing to say to someone,
right?
Which is a harder thing to hear. but it's real and it doesn't feel like you're like, what the fuck am I supposed to do with that? With your letting me down. I'm like, I never said you were letting me down. What?
Right. We didn't even have that talk.
Right. But I think there's this idea among so many men, and maybe it's again because they don't have this like biological age thing. I'm going to hold off until I find the person who's perfect. And I'll know when I can't possibly get any better than this. And I just don't really think that that's realistic.
People say that too, though. I understand why he's...
What do they say?
When you know, you'll know.
There's a certain kind of person that says that.
I know, but I've had it said to me by idiots that I'm close to.
Yeah. Well, I'm saying that that's the kind of person who like would settle down with multiple people that they, like they just happen to meet this one first.
I think this feeling that he has gets harder over time. That's my warning to him.
Mm-hmm. You're the ghost of Christmas future.
I'm the ghost of Ooh, you'll be eating eggs from a bowl with one fork that you own in a studio apartment. Like,
I mean, from the girl he's dating, that'd be like, yeah. See?
This could be you. She's pointing at me.
Right.
No, I think it gets hard. Like I told you about the conversation I had with like my friends when we went to Chicago, and they're like, listen, we're happy, but
they're like, like pick the right person by saying like when they're saying pick the right person, they're like pick a nice.
No, I don't think they didn't even say pick the right person. It was more like don't just force it.
Of course.
And I think this guy might feel like he's forcing it. He's like, I'm sitting here with someone who's great, but am I like just like pushing this relationship to the next phase because I feel like I have to?
Did you ask your friends what they mean by that? What did they feel when they met their wives? What about them made them know that it was?
See, they didn't. I don't think they would have an answer for that.
Exactly, because that's not like a real thing. They're just saying. Well, I'm telling you what they're saying when they think. They look at their friend's wife, who's like a nagging in their mind is a nagging bitch.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, oh, thank God I didn't force it with that one girlfriend that I had that was always yelling at me.
Right.
Right? That's what they're thinking. But they don't actually know those people. They're like, everyone's always comparing their own shit, right? They're like, we get along. My wife is like nice. We still have sex. I still like her. They're not like, it was an unbelievable thing where I've never found anything wrong with her and things are incredible all the time.
Right.
So I think asking what they mean by that is almost like the more interesting question.
Right. I think for this guy, I understand where he's at. I'm 26. I got the world by the balls.
So stop dating.
Try it on.
You can always
try it on.
I think most women would say, and you might say they disagree you might disagree with this, but I think most women would say they would rather someone really give it a go for 6 months and like really try it and then leave than not even do that at all, than not be broken.
Right. I understand that. I also understand the fear of this guy being like, if I really give it a go, nothing's going to be wrong still.
That's great.
And then I guess I got to really give it a go for the next thing and the next thing. I don't know. That's scary.
Yeah. Relationships are commitment's scary.
Right.
Relationships are scary. Buying a house is scary. Taking a job is scary. You're gonna get a job for 6 months. It isn't your ideal job. When should you leave there?
A job has no friends or family or feelings to like talk shit about you, but
that's true. But like again, everyone, as long as you're acting in a respectful, appropriate way,
then
people will say that. We talked about this before. You could quit a job.
Mm-hmm.
The person that is your boss could be like, fuck that person for like a week. Mm-hmm. And then the next week they could be like, all right, I'm over it. It's fine.
I'm happy
I'm hiring again. I'm dating again.
Right.
Whatever
I'm
it
happy
is.
they found something better.
Yeah. Like I'm saying, like just because someone's upset doesn't mean like is the idea that we all go through life with no pain.
Right. Fuck you if you think that.
Yeah. Well, we did it.
We solved dating again.
We'll be back on Wednesday.
We'll be back. Boom.
Bye. The U Up Podcast is produced by Belle Roman and Candace Maniga. Edited by Belle Roman. Social media by Candace Maniga. Guest booking by Ali Friedlander. VP of Podcast is Chris Allen. And be sure to follow U Up at u.up.podcast.